Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. It's another Sunday. Well, some people are on Saturday, some people are on Monday. Well, it's a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself, any part of the world, under the sea, in space, out of the galaxy, wherever you find yourself. There is always power where you find yourself. Well, in today's episode, I am pretty excited. You're gonna understand why in a bit. Well, it's not a secret. You've seen the flyers all around. So if you know it's a Sunday and it's the Power Series and I'm Samuel Adrani, you know that it's just gonna be one thing. Well, I'm excited because of today's topic. It's very interesting. Well, before we get into today's session is actually brought to you by kind courtesy of Club Beer. Yes, if you find yourself in Ghana, trust me, the only beer you should drink is Club. Forget all the other brands, drink Club. Well, and to do the honors, just to let you know today's show is exciting, I'm actually going to, open this up, pour myself a glass, and then when we come back from our official montage, I'm going to introduce, our guest, and then we'll get into it. So stick and stay with me. Yes, so we're back, and Mariana Gomez, thank you for joining. Cheers! I have my glass of beer ready. Steve, Steve says it's happy hour. Yes, today's show is one of a unique one. So cheers to Mariano Gomez, Steve K. Edwins. It is a paid ad. You guys are cracking me up. We've not even started the show. You guys are, but wait a minute. You know what? Let me take a sip. Yes. Now, so in today's show, we're going to be talking about Power Automate. No, wait, it's Power Virtual Agent. Why am I messing things up? Yes, we're going to be talking about Power Virtual Agent and beer. Yes, you heard me right. You're not drinking. It is beer, right? And that is the more reason why they, right? I'm drinking a beer. So without much ado, that's my effects. Yes, with my drum roll and my round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to Parsi.
No, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Hold on. No. This is crazy. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you now.
What? This nearly killed the vibe, but it's the devil is a liar.
Sorry.
Man. Well, cheers. I know we're talking before. You said you didn't have
cheers.
You didn't have your beer ready, but don't worry. I'm going to take one more bottle for you. And Accra Brewery Limited.
Good man.
If you are watching, I'm being told that it's a paid ad. Please come and pay for this spot on my show. I'll gladly take it. Welcome, Emma, to the Power Series.
Hey Sam, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing crazy. Like mentioning it's been an emotional weekend for me. Buried my mother-in-law yesterday. There's a lot of stuff going on. But hey, the most important thing is we're alive and the show must go on. And that's what's keeping that's just the passion. So even in grief and you're mourning, you still have to wipe your tears and make sure we have, and who resists a show that's going to talk about my two favorite things. Power Virtual Agent, which is technology, right? And beer.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's beer and technology, I just go crazy. So let's do this. So first of all on the show, the chat is going crazy. Sorry guys, sorry. Okay, see, focus. Okay. So
that's okay.
My audience will first want to know who Emma is. Tell us all about yourself, how you got into technology specifically, and then to this whole power revolution. And one thing I am personally curious about is how you came about the name, the tattooed, CRM girl. So tell us about it.
Yeah. Sure thing. So, hey, I'm Emma Darcy. I'm a pre-sales consultant over at Click Dimensions, and I have been in the Microsoft ecosystem for about 8 to 9 years now. I'm also a very newly awarded MVP, which is very, very exciting for me, and trying to absorb all of the chaos that comes with that. So yeah, I work primarily with Dynamics customer engagement, sales, marketing, that kind of thing is usually my bread and butter. But recently, I've been venturing out into Power Virtual Agents. So I did a Power Virtual Agent in a day recently, and kind of opened my eyes to all the different kind of possibilities that we could use Power Virtual Agents for. And so we built some really exciting things. From the community perspective, I've been with the Microsoft community for probably around 2 years now, I'd say. First was introduced to the community at Summit UG in Amsterdam 2 years ago, which is just insane. And everything's just exploded since then. The tattooed CRM girl story is actually really, really fun. So everybody probably knows Chris Huntingford, Mr. Tattooed CRM guy. He's if you don't know who Chris is, you've been hiding under a rock, honestly. I couldn't tell you where you've been. So I met Chris at Summit UG in Dublin almost 3 years ago now. So it's been a really long time. And one of my colleagues was like, "Oh, do you know Chris Huntingford?" And I was like, "I don't know who that is." And they're like, "Oh my God, we have to introduce the two. He's like heavily tattooed. You'll love him. He's great. He's South African. He's just wild, loud man." And I was like, "All right, great. Sounds like a good time. Into it." And so I met up with Chris, and Chris was like, "Yeah, I'm doing this thing for this client, and I don't really know what to do." And I was like, "Oh yeah, no problem." So I pulled up my laptop. I was like, "Yeah, so we'll do this, and we'll add this, and we'll make this automatic, and we'll do this and that and this, and then boom, there you go." And he was like, "Oh my God, it's amazing." I'm like, "It's just my day job." And ever since then, he's given me the title of Tattooed CRM Girl because I am also very heavily tattooed.
Yeah. That actually is, yeah. That explains it. We did something, and guys, forgive me, pardon me for that. So Emma and I are helping with a very important cause. Usually I do those intros before, I start the show. But because it was all about beer today, I totally just forgot about, my intros in terms of the, event happening. So once we have both of us on the show, I would like Emma to do us the honors and talk about, the Microsoft 365 global quiz we are doing. It's an awareness for Black Lives Matter, and both of us are hosting in our various regions. So Emma, why don't you tell us a bit about that so we can tell our good people what's going on for them to go help us out?
I would be more than happy to. I am very, very proud to be part of an amazing group of community members that are coming together to host the global Microsoft 365 quiz. So it's going to be Power Platform plus Microsoft Technologies for all of our very lovely Office friends out there as well. We want to make sure everyone feels included because the whole theme of this entire global pub quiz is inclusion, right? So the plan is that on July 30th, there will be multiple regions hosting a global pub quiz or a global quizzo for those of us in the US, or it's called something else in the US. Trivia is the other thing it's called, where people are going to get together. We're going to have like a bit of fun. We're going to answer some Microsoft questions, and we have some really great prizes in different regions as well. But the whole point of the quiz is to firstly raise awareness about the Black Lives Matter movement that's been going on, primarily here in the US, which is fantastic, but we want to make sure that it is a global thing because it is a global issue, right? So we need to raise awareness and make sure that that movement is getting the attention and the financial contributions that it absolutely deserves, and also to bring community together and kind of promote a lot of our Black members in the Microsoft community too. So on the US side, we're going to be having a fantastic speaker, Miss Brittany Taylor is going to come and talk with us about her use of Power BI and her experiences and all that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that we're also amplifying Black voices in the community. So that is the global quiz.
Awesome.
I think we have some links.
Yes, we have some links. So I'll be putting the links in the, in the chat so people are going to see that. Please, my African brothers and sisters, you are disappointing me. As of now, we don't have any registrations. Please, let's register and support, all right? Thank you very much. Awesome. So back to the beer thing. So Emma, we're going to be talking about Power Virtual Agent. I mean, to make it even easy for those of you who don't know what the Power Virtual Agent is. So why don't you just tell us, what the Power Virtual Agent is, and then why beer? What happened? Tell us the whole story.
Yeah, sure thing. So like I mentioned earlier, I did Power Virtual Agent in a day, and it's basically PVA is what I'm going to probably call it for the rest of this because saying Power Virtual Agent takes a lot out of my mouth. So PVA is basically chatbots, right? So if you're on like a website and you're trying to buy some shoes and you want to find out a particular store is open, usually there's like a chatbot. You can say, hey, when
Yeah.
is the store open? Actually, I have a really great example of a good chatbot, but not great chatbot that I experienced yesterday. I went to an art gallery yesterday, and because of the COVID-19 crisis, they are very short-staffed. They're trying to minimize the amount of people in the building. So what they did was, instead of having people there to explain what each installation was, they gave you a link to a chatbot, and basically so you to type in like the word artwork, and it would list all the artworks, and you would select which artwork you were looking at, and then it would give you a really detailed description of that particular artwork, which is great. I had many, many suggestions to make this better based on my work with chatbots lately. But, I thought it was actually a really smart implementation of a good chatbot. So basically, that's what Power Virtual Agent is. It is the newest addition to the Power Platform family, sitting alongside our Power BI, our Power Automate, and also our Power Apps. So it sits right on top of the DataFlex Pro. I got to make sure we get our terminology correct.
We're going to talk about
that
today because this whole data. But you finish. We're going to get back into that conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll talk about DataFlex Pro. So it sits right on top of DataFlex Pro, which means DataFlex Pro. Oh my gosh, which means that it's going to integrate directly with your Power Apps, your Power Automates, all of that good stuff. It's all interchangeable, all connected now, which is fantastic, and it all shares the same common data model as well, which is all wonderful. So the Power Virtual Agent that I built, a friend of mine, Miss Mary Thompson, who is another amazing human being in the community, she and I got together and decided we were going to build out a choose your own adventure Power Virtual Agent. Because basically Power Virtual Agent is a list of logical steps. If you select this, display this, else this, and it can do questions, and it can do a lot of calculations and all that kind of stuff. So we built out a choose your own adventure bot for kids during the COVID crisis to try and keep them entertained and that kind of stuff. So that's where the idea originated. And then it kind of evolved from there, because I actually live right next door to an amazing brewery here in Philadelphia called Crime and Punishment. And they have a rotating tap system. And so I'm not a big beer drinker. I usually just like my Pilsners, my lagers. I'm pretty basic, just keep it nice, clean, and crisp, nothing fancy. And I was like, there's so many different beers here. I don't know what I would like. I don't know what to try. I don't know what would be appropriate. So I figured, because, again, you can't sit at, I think I've frozen. Oh?
Nope, you should be fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I sit at, because you can't go in and sit at the bar and talk to the bartender, it's hard for you to decide what kind of beer should I drink. So I came up with the idea of building a Power Virtual Agent to basically take somebody through a number of different questions to determine what kind of beer they should choose. So that's the PVA that I built, and we're probably doing some demoing and talking about today.
Awesome. So you mentioned, this whole thing about DataFlex. So I was like, okay, Microsoft, what is going on? And then not to talk about, there's this concern about, I mean, here, and disclaimer, we are not, how do I say it? We don't have any, real details to talk about this. So this is just our own plain opinion, not anyone's influence or anything. So when I heard DataFlex, I was like, wait a minute, it sounds like something I've heard before. And there is a forum, or actually is a company that I think owns something about DataFlex. So I'm just hopeful that, all this has been cleared out. I mean, there's a lot of school of thoughts out there. Some think it really wasn't necessary. It's rebranding. Other companies are like, we've done promotional materials, like training materials, all on, CDS, and now there's a rebrand and have to pull all that out I mean, what's your personal take on the DataFlex thing before we jump into today's session?
Do we want to talk about the name or the actual introduction of DataFlex itself?
Let's talk about the name. Well, obviously, if we're going to talk about CDS as part of our, you might want to give just give an intro on what CDS is and now the new name, or what DataFlex is. Yeah, let's take it that way.
Okay. So how about we talk about what DataFlex and DataFlex Pro is? I think that would make the most amount of sense.
Yeah.
So before DataFlex and DataFlex Pro, you had something called the CDS, the Common Data Service, which is basically one giant shared relational database amongst all the different aspects of the Power Platform. So on top of CDS, you would have your Power Apps, your Power Automate, your Power Virtual Agents, and Power BI. Everything's sharing the exact same data source. So it was like your source of truth. I think that's what I've heard it being referenced as before, which is great. That's really cool and all, but the problem with CDS, not the problem, the certain restrictions with CDS was around like costs and pricing and things like that. And sometimes it was running a little bit expensive. And so a lot of businesses were building applications based on SharePoint, which, you know, I'm not going to get into the SharePoint versus CDS argument or discussion or debate, but sometimes SharePoint was the appropriate method of building your Power App just purely from a cost perspective and purely from ease of functionality, for example. So along comes Microsoft, and they're like, hey, we have firstly rebranded. CDS is no longer called CDS. It's now called DataFlex Pro. But we've also introduced this other thing called DataFlex, which I think was formerly kind of alluded to as CDS Lite. So the new DataFlex product that's coming out is really, really cool because it's going to be a free relational database that comes with any Teams license. So as we know, Teams is basically the foundation block of a lot of businesses right now. Without Teams, a lot of companies would not have been able to function as a business cohesively during the COVID crisis. So it's a massive step. So introducing DataFlex to the Teams package, so to speak, is going to really blow things out of the water. It's going to make application building that much easier, so much cheaper. And also, let's say you have somebody in your organization that builds this application and it's great and they want to expand it. With SharePoint, it's very, very difficult. You actually basically have to rebuild the whole thing in CDS. If you want to move your application from your SharePoint data source into a CDS data source, you basically have to rebuild the entire application, which is really time consuming. However, now with the DataFlex and DataFlex Pro, if you see that you need to move this application you built in DataFlex to a somewhat larger audience, or you need to scale it up, you can now move it to DataFlex Pro. So it makes things so much more scalable. So in my opinion, it's a really great move. I don't work in Power Apps very, very much, but I can definitely see the value of it, and I'm very, very excited about it. If we want to talk about the name change, that's a little bit of a different discussion. I have my opinions. I originally didn't love the name change. I'll be honest. I thought it sounds a little cheesy. It doesn't really fit in with the power theme that we've got going on, right? Yeah. But I don't know whether they're going to keep it. To be honest, based on everything that's happening with the DataFlex company, I don't know. That's not going to be my wheelhouse. But I believe they rebranded for a couple of different reasons. The first major reason I think they've rebranded is because I feel like a lot of our counterparts in the Office world or in the SharePoint world kind of didn't really understand what CDS was, didn't really see the value in it, kind of didn't really want to move. So by rebranding it, it kind of takes away that scary, I don't know what CDS is and I don't want to learn, scary kind of theme, and then making it to DataFlex, be like, oh, this is new, this is shiny, I want to know. It's kind of more exciting. It's kind of building up a little bit of a buzz about it. So I think that's probably why they rebranded. I believe it's to make it more digestible and more understandable to the audience.
I mean, even for people in the power community, even ourselves, sometimes we found CDS very intimidating. And I think I've had Keith on the show, and Keith, kind of like broke down and explained that. So, I mean, and guys, Keith is a master of CDS. He really loves it. He's done crazy stuff with it. So if you want, any much info about that, he's he's your go-to guy. But like you're saying, let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope that something good comes out from this whole, thing. I mean, the whole product is, awesome, but the name, we're talking about the name change. Well, when that happens, definitely we'll be here to let you know how that goes. Well, let's get into today's session. So I'm going to do a demo for us. So you're going to walk us through. Tell us what this whole thing is about. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. You go ahead.
No, I'm not saying that now. It's going to be all you now, because you're going to tell us this whole thing you've done, or you want to show us with the Power Virtual Agents and beer. So I'm going to flip the whole screen to you now. It's going to be entirely you. While I sit back, finish this chilled beer and try to respond to the messages coming to the chat, and I'll ask you the questions, as they come. So it's all you.
So Perfect. So in our chat, I've actually shared a link to the beer bot, the base beer bot that I built. So if you want to share that out with people in the chat so they can actually try this out for themselves, I want this to be really interactive, they can do so. So that's actually a live running version of a chatbot that I have built. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yep, I'm going to copy this.
And we're going to do this one. And I have like let me just disable this color thing real quick. For an hour. Perfect. So the screen shouldn't look super orangey anymore. It should look good.
No, it looks perfect.
So first thing I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about how the Power Virtual Agent beer bot works. And this is the base version of this bot that I've built. I've built out more expansive versions for different breweries that I'm working with at the moment. And so with all different Power Virtual Agents, you need to kick it off with a particular message. So I'm just going to refresh this and get it started. So I'm gonna kick off the beer quiz, and hopefully you guys can see this. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. And what's gonna happen is the Power Virtual Agent is now gonna go through a flow of logic, which we'll take a look at the back end in just a second. But it's gonna ask the end user a couple of different questions based on their taste, their preferences, their location, the temperature, all these different things. And so the first things first, the first question I always ask somebody if they want to get a beer with me, it's like, are you looking to get drunk? Do you care about taste? Do you not care about taste? Like, what are we doing here? Is it a wild night or a tame night? Most of the time they're going to say it's a tame night, and then it'll evolve into a wild night every time. So I'm going to hit the no button here because I do genuinely care about how my beer tastes. And the next question is going to ask me if I'm drinking outside. So right now with the COVID-19 crisis here in the United States, this particular state that I'm in, you cannot actually consume anything indoors at the moment. Everything's still outdoors. So I'm going to hit the yes button for outdoors. Is it hot outside? Well, I don't know where you guys are located in the world right now, but it is 105 degrees Fahrenheit, about 41 degrees Celsius here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I'm going to say yes, it's pretty damn hot outside. And then the next question is going to be like, okay, cool. So you're outside, it's hot. It's now going to decide, well, do you want something like fun and funky, or are you into something easy and refreshing? For me, I don't really like heavily flavored beers like Saisons and Goses and things like that are not my thing. I prefer something more refreshing, like a Kolsch, for example. So if I hit easy and refreshing here, it's going to say cool. So it's going to now take a look at all the different beers that I've got listed that are easy and refreshing type beers, but also, do I want something that's a little hoppy, or do I want something that's no hops at all? And again, I'm very much a plain Jane. I'm like, no heavy hops, please. Just give me my like crisp, clean beer. So I'm going to say no. And it's going to suggest a beer to me. So here it said it recommends a full-bodied wheat beer, and then it gives me like a little bit of a picture here of an example of a beer. And then you can kind of start the beer quiz again. So in this particular example that I'm building out for the brewery across the road from me here, it's going to basically go through the rotating taps of what we have on offer at the moment and basically suggest something based on what's currently on tap. And once it's suggested something, the end user will then either be able to redo the quiz, which I want to show you guys my favorite part of this. It's going to be able to redo the quiz, or you can say, no, this is the beer I want, and then it will give you instructions on how to purchase the beer. So everything's pickup right now, so it will display the Venmo code to actually pay Crime and Punishment, because they're only taking orders online right now, so via Venmo. And then it'll give you the address, and it'll give you a time slot and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really interactive. It basically is taking everything about purchasing something from the brewery, so you no longer have to call them. Everything's online. If you're like me, I'm pretty much a hardcore millennial. I will never pick up the phone to call anyone if I can use a bot. And actually, a really fun statistic that I learned the other day is that 66% of people will prefer to actually use some sort of a chatbot to interact and get something resolved rather than picking up the phone, which I thought was really, really interesting. So my favorite part of this, this is if you are looking to get drunk and you don't care about taste, you need a shitty American macro lager. And it also says shame on you. So, if anybody drinks Bud Light, I apologize, but it's a terrible beer. Let's be honest with each other. So let's take a quick look at the back end here. Hopefully it's going to let me sign in to Power Virtual Agent.
I mean, Emma, this is really awesome. I'm actually thinking. So back when I was in the state, there was this app. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I used to live in America for a while. I relocated back to Accra last year, exactly like a year ago. So there was this app that allowed us to actually, so if you know, Portland is actually Oregon. Portland is a state and city that is known for a lot of microbreweries. So lots of different beers. I mean, go crazy about it. So there was this app, and most of the breweries were really smart. They had this whole IoT thing going on. So most of you can understand where my passion for IoT and beer is coming from. So they actually had this app that allowed us, just like as buddies, to find out the various taps open in different pubs or different microbreweries or different breweries, so we can know what flavors or what beers are they have in stock, how many pints they have, and all that. Now and then we can actually ride share right from the app. So we know that if we go to this particular pub, they have the kind of beer we're looking for. The three or four of us can actually order an Uber right from the app, and we get a discount, and we go to this pub to drink our favorite, beer. And I was like, this is crazy. So looking at what you've done right now, in this time we find ourselves, it's just, and last week we talked about custom web services. So it's just a matter of probably tying into Uber or something to also even track where your beer is. I mean, this is crazy. You can ask the bot, where's my beer, and call some endpoint and tell you at this point your beer is 5 minutes away or 2 minutes away. This is awesome, Emma. This is really awesome.
Awesome. That sounds amazing, actually. I love the idea of being able to call an Uber. I also really enjoy that it's like promoting responsible drinking as
Yeah,
well. So that's super,
yeah,
super
yeah.
cool. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, Sam. I don't know if that's possibly on my end. I'm not really sure. It kind of keeps cutting in and out, but it's probably on my end. But I'm going to power ahead if that's okay. You can
Yeah,
let
yeah,
me
please
know
do.
in the
Yeah.
chat if that's not okay.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is, I need to switch this. This is a test bot. We are going to actually take a quick look at my crime and punishment beer bot that I've got, because I think this beer bot is built on a different tenant. So we're going to just take a quick look at this, but the whole thing is the same. So this particular beer bot, I want to talk you through like the core components of Power Virtual Agents, basically what it consists of, how you build it. And honestly, a lot of this is so easy and so straightforward to build. And hopefully my air conditioning isn't too loud. Sometimes it gets really loud, so I apologize if there's a little bit of static noise in the background. So yeah, first thing I'm going to do is when I load up my Power Virtual Agent, on the left-hand side are all the